Guys, Rob1 here, coming at you with a new Yu-Gi-Oh video, and in today's Yu-Gi-Oh video we are going to be talking about the recent YCS U-Trek and the meta-analysis that we have got from it. So, over the weekend that happened last Saturday and Sunday, we had YCS U-Trek and two other YCSs that I'm not going to go really that much into because they don't really affect us, because some of them had Summon Sorceress and one is a North American YCS that honestly they can stay on their own. I feel like that doesn't impact our meta as much as it does theirs, so I wanted to talk about our meta. And the meta analysis, this is basically, we are going to be looking at the top 64 and analyzing it, talking about what happened at U-Trek, and just talking about where the format's going from here and what these decks have done for this format and where they're going to continue going on. So right now, let's have a pie chart pop up. Yeah, so that's the pie chart. That's everything that's the top 64 of YCS U-Trek. Obviously there is a lot of decks on here. There are quite a few that look honestly just how are you still here, and we're going to be talking about that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start off with the biggest contender on this pie chart, which is Sky Strikers. Now Sky Strikers had a huge representation of 35 decks in the top 64. 35 decks, and having so many decks in the top 64 is unthinkable at times, and just having this many decks was honestly one of the biggest surprises to me, because honestly I knew the deck 55% of this top 64. I knew the deck was just going to be insane, this format, as soon as I saw that over 25% of the entire event had Sky Striker players in it. I believe it was over 25%. I believe it was over 500 players who were using pure Sky Striker in this event. And honestly, just seeing 55% in the top 64 was just a big surprise. I honestly did not expect to see this. This kind of turn out, but why did this deck get here? Why did it dominate so much, and why did it actually win YCS U-Trek? Well, for starters, the deck has a lot of the deck is still very consistent. On the last list, the deck lost absolutely nothing. Losing 2 drones meant nothing to the deck because it still has Ray. Ray is still very powerful. Just being able to summon itself back from the graveyard when your Link monster leaves the board, honestly did nothing to the deck, because also it's able to then just turn itself into a Kagari and then get something back from the graveyard. It's still got all of its power cards, such as its Pot of Greed, Sky Striker Engage, to be able to search all of its cards and get a draw. It's also got all of its destroy ability and control ability, such as Widow Anchor, Afterburners. Like, the deck lost absolutely nothing from this format, and honestly, seeing it have such a huge domination in this format was a big surprise to me, to be honest. I did not expect the deck to have this much competitiveness. This amount of players actually playing the deck, and this amount of dominance in the format. Honestly, this shows how dominant Sky Striker is in this format, and seeing it that dominant was just a huge surprise to me, just to see all of this in the format. And honestly, it being this big of a surprise it's not a surprise that I saw it in the top 64. It's a surprise that I saw it dominate to this degree, because personally I thought Autogeist were going to dominate to this degree. I thought Autogeist were going to be the deck that came out of the rough, destroyed Sky Striker, destroyed Goki, destroyed all the other decks, and just took majority of the spots and win YCS U-Trek. But Sky Striker came out of nowhere and proved me wrong. It proved me wrong, and it shows that the deck still has a lot of playability, still is very powerful, even when you can flip an anti-spell fragrance on them or a rivalry on them, and obviously if you flip an order, then they just up and scoop, but that's a one-off. But honestly, seeing the deck dominate so much it's a surprise, but I knew the deck was still going to be very good. I honestly knew the deck would still have this kind of power. It's very obvious that the deck was still going to be very powerful in this format, seeing as it's still got everything. It didn't lose anything on the list, borrowing 2 Hornet bits, which meant absolutely nothing. And seeing it with this number is a surprise, but it won YCS Utrecht, and it's kind of obvious why I did it, because it didn't lose anything, and it's still a very dominant deck in the format, being able to utilize all these cards in the deck, and even spells outside of the deck, such as like Foolish Bearer of Goods and Full Metal Fist Fusion, to get your additional advantage. And honestly, just seeing this really isn't a surprise, but it's also a big surprise to see that it took over 55% of YCS Utrecht's top 64. But yeah, that's Sky Strikers. The deck did very well, and it's clear that it is the best deck of the format. And honestly, we will see it a lot more, and it's going to stay here till the next list, because from what it's looking like, it's bordering on the line of tier 0, but it is beatable, which is nice. But the next deck that made the top 64 of Utrecht, on the list, at least for the highest amount, is Goki. Surprisingly, Goki actually are still around in the European section of Yu-Gi-Oh! Being able to just dominate to such a huge degree without Summon Sorceress, you having a total of 8 decks in the top 64 with 12%, was actually a very big surprise to me. I knew maybe 1 or 2 might squeeze into the top 64, but seeing 8 of them get into the top 64 was actually a very big surprise to me, because I personally thought that they wouldn't be able to get into the top 64 this much because of the loss of stuff like Invoker, one of their best starter cards, being able to get them into Solde, and the loss of Goblin that made it so much easier to just counter the deck with stuff like Autogeist using like Infinite Impermanence, or using stuff like Siliquise to just get rid of their cards, or in cases like Sky Striker using cards like Widow Anchor, or using cards like Afterburner to just being able to destroy their cards because Goblin is no longer around to stop the targeting. So honestly, seeing Goki in the top 64 it was a surprise to me. But there are a lot of reasons why the deck can still do this, why the deck is still good enough to make the top 64. I personally think it's still in the top 10 best decks. I wouldn't put it in the top 5 because it's a lot easier to beat now, but they proved me wrong. They obviously proved me wrong getting 8 spots. But why are they able to do this? Well, they're still very consistent. Sadly enough, they still are very consistent. Being able to just utilize the effects all of them have, being able to search every Goki in the deck is still very, very powerful. And honestly, just being able to create an extra link with Firewall still, like honestly, Firewall, get out Firewall, you're the problem! But Konami won't hit you. Is really surprising. Like honestly, seeing everything that's happened and seeing that Goki are still very dominant, and that's obviously because of Firewall's still around and stuff, is a big surprise. Like the deck can still extra link very easily, even though it can't gain that additional normal summon. The deck has just gone to a point where it relies more on the special summon aspects, using stuff like instant fusion to summon like Raijin or the level 3 fusion, utilizing cards like Jump Forward more, utilizing a lot of cards to just special summon faster instead of utilizing the normal summon, or if they have to, being able to still do a lot with the normal summon, and even using cards like Gumblar and Trigate to just continuously get the negates. And even though you can target them now, it's still going to be a problem with like Phoenix and Cerberus to essentially stop you from destroying them in any way, shape, or form. So seeing them having 8 spots in the top 64, it's not the biggest surprise to me. It's surprising to see that they had that, but the logic behind the deck is still very solid. The deck is still very good, and honestly, even though they're an annoying deck, they can still show that they're still really good. And also, one second, I still have Goki. I still have Goki. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to. I'm ready if I ever want to play Goki. I'm ready. It's boring, but I'm ready. And honestly, seeing them like that, seeing that they're still very dominant in the game, is annoying. It is very boring because of we thought they were gone. We were hoping they were dead, but sadly, they're still around to play, and they're still a very annoying deck. But that's Goki. Let's go on to the next deck, which is Altergeist with 5 spots. The deck that I thought was going to have at least maybe 15 in the top 64, with a total of 8%. In the top 64. Now, it's no surprise why this deck got into the top cut. Being able to utilize floodgates such as Anti-Spell, Rivalry, Imperial Order, being able to utilize those cards to be able to just beat through the competition with 5 decks, with 5 of them in the top cut. It honestly is no surprise to me it being in the top cut, and honestly, it being there just shows that the deck is still a lot more powerful than some people give it credit for. And honestly, I can still see this deck doing a lot more. Personally, I feel this deck could have done a lot better if it wasn't for the next deck that we're going to be talking about, but the deck still shows that it's still a great contender in the format, and it will still be able to do it. Plus, it has a great matchups against Goki now because of the loss of Goblin. It can easily beat Sky Striker if you flip Imperial Order, Rivalry, or Anti-Spell, and there's still a lot, and it's still able to beat a lot of the other decks on this list. But Altergeist being there, no surprise, and it's still gonna be a very good deck in the format. So next, the reason why I feel like Altergeist didn't get more tops in this is True Draco with the same number as Altergeist in the top cut. Now, obviously, True Draco are here for quite a few reasons, Mono Iwato being one of them, being able to stop all the hand traps in the game, being able to utilize floodgates just as well as Altergeist, being able to use Rivalry to stop the multiple different types, being able to use Anti-Spell to stop all the spells, being able to use Imperial Order to do the same thing. Obvious that it's going to be here in the top cut, plus having just a very dominant matchup against the Altergeist deck, being able to utilize all their trap cards and all their spell cards to just destroy your back row and your monsters to essentially get you to a point where you can win the game. That's why this deck is most likely here, and that's why I believe it's here. So, like, this deck was obviously going to be in here. Did I expect it to be 5 spots? No, I expected maybe 2. But honestly, seeing it here is a big surprise. Isn't really a surprise to me either. It was obvious that the deck was going to do it just because of normal summoning a Watto, activating Card of Demise, activating Heritage, activating Diagram, activating all these cards is just it's what the deck does. It's what the deck does, and it's able to do it very well to deal with the opponent and to just stop you from being able to play the game. So makes a lot of sense why this deck is actually in the top 64, and it's not a big surprise to me. So, Trickstar also made it in with 5 decks as well, 3 mono variants, so just pure variants, and then 3 Sky Striker variants. So the deck Sky Striker variant is still running around. Now, I honestly knew Sky Striker was going to be here as well. Trickstar was going to be here as well. It was on my top 5 list. I believe I put it as number 4 on the list because the deck is still really powerful. Droll Hand Loop combo is still around. The deck didn't get touched whatsoever. And if you tell me Goat to 2 and Terraforming to 2 is a hit, it really isn't. It really isn't. Like, semi-limited cards means nothing half the time. So, obviously, this deck would still be here. Now, the Sky Striker variants were a surprise to me because they've lost the utility of 2 drones, which is something the deck used quite a bit. And losing that was a surprise to me. Seeing the Sky Striker variants is a bit of a surprise, but the mono variants are there obviously now, and I can see why the Sky Striker variants were still able to make it because triple engage and adding stuff like Widow Anchor and Afterburners to the deck still makes the deck very competitive and very good in the deck game in general. So, sorry, it does make sense for the deck to still be in the top cut. And just being able to utilize all the hand traps that the deck can utilize, such as Gamma, such as Ash Blossom, Ogres, Droll and Lockbird to do the Droll and Lock hand combo, and even Reaper in some cases, the deck still has that power, and it's obvious that why the deck is still topping and is still here in the format. Next invoked Mekk-Knight with 2 spots. Yeah. I knew this was happening as well. Invoked Mekk-Knight with Madness Invoker really does make sense for it to be here. It got there very easily because of the deck just has so much power now with the fact that Madness Invoker can search Book of Law. You can summon Purgatorio. Purgatorio go for big damage, then use Book of Law to make a Mecha Bar, and then just have a negate or equal OTK to your opponent. Now, obviously the Mekk-Knights also gave this deck a lot of power as well, being able to utilize everything in that regard. But honestly, seeing the Mekk-Knight invoked here, really wasn't a surprise as well, seeing as it's 3% of the meta, and honestly, it did well, and it did really well in the game, in the tournament, and honestly, I expected there to be a lot more of these in there. I expected there to be at least maybe 7 invoked decks in this top cup, because it was just such a good deck to play, and just seeing as you can utilize the Sky Striker stuff even with one Hornet drones, it makes sense for the deck to have a lot more power. But yeah, seeing this deck here was not a surprise either. The deck is still very powerful with stuff like Mecha Bar to be able to negate, with stuff like Book of Law to be able to swap out, like a Mask Change, using Madness Invoker to just search an invocation or a Book of Law, and being able to utilize the Mekk-Knights as big bodies and tools to just search and destroy your opponent a lot easier makes a lot of sense to why this deck was here. The next deck with 2 spots, Burning Abyss. They always top events. Konami, it's been 4 years. It's been 4 long years since the great Burning Abyss were released, and they're still topping. But yeah, Burning Abyss are obviously going to be here. Their hand trap build got them here. The Kaiju variant even got them here because it was built it got them all the way to 2nd place, and it was obviously the reason why it was able to do that is because it utilized cards like the Kaijus to stop the Sky Striker players from being able to use their back row, and then you just swing for game. It made a lot of sense to why this deck was here, and then you just cleared up the back row and everything. So Burning Abyss were obviously going to be here because they're just a deck that like to mill cards, use tons of hand traps, and just utilize the Kaijus to get rid of your opponents, to deal with the Sky Striker matchup. It was obviously going to be here, and Burning Abyss obviously are not going to leave the format anytime soon. The deck will be very good for upcoming YCSs. I assume it will even be really good in YCS London, so I'll be siding a few choice cards to stop that trash. But yeah, Burning Abyss are obviously still very good, and they will keep seeing them do a lot in the format. So yeah, Burning Abyss are on here as well. A very big surprise that actually topped also in America was Cyber Dragons. Now, it's kind of obvious why I can see why Cyber Dragons actually were able to top, using the effects of like Cyber Dragon Hurts, using stuff like Cyber Emergency, the new Monster Reborn for Cyber Dragons. They were able to utilize all these cards very well and either just go for game on the opponent really quickly, because this is a hands down OTK deck, being able to just crash through your opponent and just deal with them. And just utilize stuff like Cyber Dragon Infinity, Cyber Dragon, and Cyber Dragons in general, just being able to suck up like the opponent's Shizuku, Kagari, Hayate, and just to stop them from being able to summon the Ray from the graveyard even. It made a lot of sense, and even being able to break the Goki Extra Link, seeing this deck in the top 64 was not a surprise by any means whatsoever. And knowing this, it really was a surprise. Really was to see that Cyber Dragons actually hit the top 64, which was really good because it means that we're getting other decks like Cyber Dragons being able to make these accomplishments, and seeing as that is a thing, and it is actually really cool to actually see that. I can't wait to see what else Cyber Dragons will do, and they're definitely going to be a deck to watch out for from now on, because that's something I've been watching personally, because I've dueled them a few times and I know their power. And seeing them keep on going, I can't wait to see where they end up. So Cyber Dragons are obviously on also in the top 64, and one other which I believe was Pendulum Magicians. I heard from someone it was Pendulum Magicians. I don't actually know, but just in case, I won't go too big into it. But looking from this entire top 64, the meta is going to be very Sky Striker dominant. It's going to be very Sky Striker dominant, being able to utilize all the spell cards in the deck, being able to have Pot of Greeds, being able to have control ability, just snatch steal your monster for a turn with stuff like Widow Anchor, destroy it and get 3 pots of greeds with Engage. It's definitely going to be a very Sky Striker heavy format. Goki are obviously still here to stay around. It's going to be boring to duel them still, but they're still going to be here. They're still going to be very competitive and very powerful. We've still got Autogeist, obviously. As I said, they're still very good, and I knew they were going to do good. I believe they will get higher and higher, but as long as True Draco are around, it's going to be difficult for them. And with True Draco, they are obviously staying around as well, with stuff like a Mono Iwato, Card of Demise, just tons of draw support, destroying some things, and keep on running your opponent down. Trickstar, they're Trickstar, Hand Loop, Withdraw on Lockbird, burn you to death, annoying son of a gun, new time rules go away. Mekk-Knight Invoked, they're obviously going to be here. Burning Abyss, you better start signing for them now, because it's going to be very annoying to deal with. Cyber Dragons, I would watch out for them. I would consider some tech cards to stop them in general. Maybe your own Cyber Dragon to kind of suck up their Chimera Tech fleet. And whatever the other deck is, if you know, look for that as well. But yeah, guys, Utrecht, it showed that there are a lot of Sky Striker in the dominant deck, and we'll see what happens from there on. But, guys, what do you personally think about what happened at Utrecht? Do you think the Burning Abyss player should have won in the finals? Do you think the Sky Striker player deserved to win? Do you think Sky Striker should be hit more on the next list, or do you think they will keep getting better and better? Tell me all of that in the comment section below, and tell me if you think Autogeist will also be the most dominant deck of the format going forward, as long as Sky Striker are the best deck. But yeah, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to tell me what you thought of it in the comment section below. Press the like button if you enjoyed it. Press the subscribe button if you want to see future more Yu-Gi-Oh videos similar to this, and press the notification button if you want to be notified of any Yu-Gi-Oh videos I upload or streams that I normally do at 8 PM Thursday UK time. But yeah, guys, that's the video. Yu-Gi-Oh is gonna be a mess for a while. I'll see you guys next time. Robot1 signing out. Why Utrecht? Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and check out the links in the description for the previous video, and the link to my Facebook page where you can see previous videos that I've posted there, and any other information that I may have posted there. I hope to see you guys next time, and thanks for watching.